everybody. We're so excited to be here. We're in San Diego, California today for the Integrative Medicine for Mental Health Conference. I'm here with Dr. Mark Filidei. Dr. Mark Filidei is one of our favorite doctors. He's our he's our director of Integrative and Functional Medicine at Amen Clinics. Dr. Filidei's approach is so different, and it's very different than what we do at Amen Clinics because we treat the root of someone's problems, and that is just, it makes an immense help in their recovery. Dr. Filidei is presenting today at IMMH, and we're really excited to sit down here and talk with him about his speech today. Dr. Filidei, thank you for sitting with us. What are you most excited about your speech today at IMMH?
Well, the exciting part is actually informing other doctors and practitioners about mold and mycotoxins and how that might affect their mental health patients. So mold is notorious for causing things like brain fog, lack of focus, insomnia, anxiety, right? And so instead of giving them a drug, look for the cause of that. And mold is one of those.
I think that's so interesting because we see so many people at Amen Clinics, and before we started this interview, we sat down together and we started talking a little bit about mold and the different testing that you could do to detect if you're possibly suffering from this. Can you talk a little bit about that?
So mold is ubiquitous. It's everywhere. It's indoors and outdoors. Mm-hmm. But if you have a water-damaged building, mm-hmm. there's a leak somewhere, you might not be aware of it.
Right.
Then dangerous mold, toxic mold can build up. Mm-hmm. This could be behind the wall. You don't even know it. I've had many patients where it turns out it was behind their bedroom wall, and they didn't know this. And that they can't sleep. They can't focus. They don't know what's wrong. So there are ways to test that. One of them is urine mycotoxin testing. You can also do other blood tests to help. So that's what my talk is going to be about, is when to think about it, how you can test it, and what to look for in your patients.
Are there any things that you want the audience to take away from your speech specifically?
Just the awareness, really. I ask every single patient that I see, have you ever had a water leak in your home? Has there been a roof leak? Do you see brown spots on the ceiling? Do you have a wet basement? So I ask every single patient I see at the Amen Clinic that question, and you'd be surprised how many people say, oh yeah, my basement floods every year. I never thought about that, right? So bringing the awareness that it's there and that you can test for it, I think is my top goals with the talk.
Dr. Filidei sees a wide array of different patients. Do you have a specific patient story that kind of relates to your talk today? Maybe it's somebody that, what tested positive for black mold or, had undiagnosed Lyme disease that kind of sticks out to you and what you're talking about today?
Yeah, that actually is a perfect example. It was a patient that was referred by one of our New York Amen Clinic doctors. I'm in the California office, so I do a lot of things by phone. And I rewound the story again. It was a 23-year-old kid who just came back from college, did okay at college. When he came back home, the wheels came off. Mm-hmm. He just couldn't think anymore. He had a lot of anxiety. No one really knew why. And I had him and his mother on the phone, and I said, well, where are you sleeping? Oh, I'm sleeping in the basement. Everything started when he got back home. Mm-hmm. And I brought up this mold issue, and all of a sudden there was silence at the other end of the line, and the mother said, we had a huge mold problem down there. The washer was leaking, and there was black mold all over behind the wall. And it was never remediated, right? So it turned out he was positive for mycotoxins. We cleaned him up, and he got better. And then many people on the same block ended up getting appointments with me because there was a problem in the whole block with moisture in the basements causing mold. So that's a perfect example of, no one is going to think about that. If that kid went to a regular psychiatrist, they would never think about that, right? They'd be on Xanax or who knows what drug and didn't find the cause.
Oh my gosh, that's just such a powerful story. I have goosebumps. Is there any person or speech that you're really looking forward to this weekend at IMMH? Maybe, somebody that you look up to, a colleague that you're interested in hearing about their talk this weekend?
Well, there's a lot of great talks this weekend. Daniel speaking, and Dr. Chapik, one of our colleagues, is going to talk about TBI. Yeah. There's also talks on integrative or functional treatments for something called PANDAS, which is an autoimmune condition, really attack against the brain, that's in kids, but also in other mental health conditions. So I'm looking forward to that talk. More tools, the better, right? So we share a lot of knowledge here in the mental health and functional space. So I'm really looking forward to the whole conference.
If you have somebody out there that is suffering from brain fog or some sort of mental condition, what would your advice be to them?
Well, number one, think about other causes. My biggest data point I get is, most important one really, is when did things change? So if you've always had ADD since you were a kid, that's one thing. But if you had normal function, whatever normal is for you,
Right.
and then it's not normal, that's where I focus. Maybe it was a trip to Europe or South America, or you got in a car accident. Something happened to change things. And that's where the gold is, right? That's where you find all these things no one thought about. So the time of change is critical for finding things that I look for.
Well, thank you so much for being here, Dr. Filidei. We really appreciate your time, and we're really excited to hear you talk today at 2 p.m.
Glad to be here.